What's up peeps and welcome back to Sorrel Plays. If you're new around here, consider subscribing to my channel for all sorts of useful videos. Thursdays is cooking day and I've done the intro separately because I've been so busy at work. Today I have made something called Poğaça. It's basically like a pie without the gravy and stuff. It's portable food and I love portable food. I think it's one of the most useful things you can do. The kids can take it to school for packed lunch. I take it to work for my lunch and it's like a snack basically. Vary these ingredients to make them a little bit healthier as well. I mean, there isn't a lot of butter. There's no oil in this recipe today apart from greasing your tin. So if you want ideas about variations on these, comment down below and I'll tell you other things you can do. You can basically do whatever you want. So it's like a shell and you just add whatever ingredients you want. These taste really good with blue cheese, Stilton. You can do just cheese, you can do halloumi, you can do any kind of filling you want. If it is a runny filling, you can drain it and put that in. You can drain your mince if you are able to eat mince. I know that a lot of my viewers are more after the healthy stuff, so I have got one coming up that's a healthy dish. Might be posting a bonus video at the weekend. So subscribe if you haven't, if you want to see more cooking videos. I've got a list longer than my arm.
Damn, they're long.
I do enjoy cooking. Most of the food I cook can either be reheated or eaten cold. That's the kind of food I like making. I find it practical. Today's dish isn't the easiest to get right. Basically the pastry is the hardest part of it. You can do a sweet version of this as well, adding sugar instead of salt to your pastry. I don't want to long it too much because you're going to get bored and click off the video. Here it is. Okay guys, I've got less than 5% lean steak mince. I have some clover butter and I've got some plain flour. The ratio we're using is 110 grams of plain flour. That's 4 ounces. We can put some herbs in if you like. I'm using some chard with mine. You can put parsley, spinach, anything else. I've got an onion. We're going to put some water in to make this into pastry. Just a little bit of water, about 2 tablespoons. I'm going to double up on my ingredients, so I'm actually using 220 grams of flour and I'm going to use about 4 tablespoons of butter and 4 tablespoons of water. So let's start with the butter. I'm getting heaped spoons. That's a bit more like 2 tablespoons rather than the 1 for my double mixture because I like to make a lot of this. You can use any filling of your choice. These are generally made with Stilton cheese and spinach. So if you want the healthier version, then you can avoid the minced meat if you have any health issues with minced meat. We're going to put a little bit of salt to taste. You can put pepper in this. I don't generally put pepper in. It's kind of all up to you. We're doing about a teaspoon to half a tablespoon of salt. And we're going to mix that in and we just need to basically, what do you call it, blend it. We're just going to sift through the flour and the butter with our fingers to kind of make it into a crumbly consistency before we add water to it. So this is what it should look like. There shouldn't be any lumps and bumps in there. It should all be kind of crumbly. You can hardly tell that there's any butter in there. And then we're going to add some water. A little bit of warm water would be good. So if you boil the kettle beforehand, so it's not boiling, just leave the lid open or something. Pour it into a glass, let it cool down a little bit, and then pour that in. Keep some in a jug just in case you do need a little bit more water as you go along. And depending on your ratio as well, you'll need to add a bit more water until you can turn this into a pastry. So I'll start by mixing it with a little spoon and then we're going to be using our hands to knead it and make sure that it turns into a little dough so we can roll it out. So your consistency needs to be kind of when it starts sticking together, not sticking to your hands but forming into a dough like this is starting to here. In the meantime, I'm going to use a frying pan with no oil in. Once your mince is a little bit brown, but it's still got pink bits in, just make a little space in the middle, the hottest part of the pan, and put your onions in as well. You don't want this stuff overly cooked. It doesn't have to be brown. I'm going to get my chard ready. Chard is very good for you. I'm also going to be adding some cheese to this. It's going to be hard grated parmesan cheese, which is a little bit less fattier than cheddar. So just slicing up the chard now. This is actually from my dad's allotment, bless him. Once the onions are a little bit glazed as well, the mince and the onions are kind of evenly cooked now. So the drier you can keep your filling, the better. This helps it to dry up a little bit. On to rolling out our pastry. This is probably the trickiest part of this task. The pastry is quite hard because we're not using oil, we're using butter. If you do find that the pastry is too hard for you to comfortably roll it out, use oil instead of butter. For certain things I do use olive oil instead of the butter, but for these I like them to be a little bit hard, like a pasty or a pattie. So we're just going to keep kneading this. We've put some extra flour on the board and a little bit on our hands just to stop it sticking. And we're going to start kneading it so that it warms up a little bit. It'll be much easier to roll out once it warms up. I'm ready to start rolling this out now. The great thing about this recipe is you don't have to worry about how neat your pastry looks, because when you fold it all up together you won't see any edges. Apologies for the camera angle here. I can't touch the camera while I'm doing this, but I am simply just rolling it out until it's quite thin. I'll show you the thickness of it. Just bear in mind that it will get thicker once it's cooking in the oven, so you don't want it too thick, otherwise it's going to get really tough and you won't really be able to bite into it. It's about 2 millimeters, I would say. So nothing more than 2 millimeters ideally. We're going to put our filling on now. Be careful not to get it on the edges, because you don't want any grease or oil or anything around the edges, otherwise it won't stick together. I'm using a drop of water just around the edges to seal the part we're going to stick together like this. You can fold the top over slightly as well so it doesn't open up as it dries, because the first one especially, first few ones will be a little bit dry by the time you get the last ones in. Here's the next one. That's how quick they are to put together. Once all your dough's ready, set it aside and separate it into small bits so that you can make these individually. You can make a massive sheet of this and put all your filling on the massive sheet and then just use a cup or a bowl to cut around each one. So we're ready to get these in the oven. 250 degrees, 10 to 15 minutes. Now time to show you the bonus recipe. Again, we've got the same amount of flour, about 110 grams or 220 grams if you want to make a huge one. We've put some oil in here instead of butter because we want this one to be a little bit softer, not like a patty. This is going to be our Turkish pizza. We're adding some salt to this. You can add some dried herbs to it if you like for a little bit more flavouring. You can leave that for adding to the filling if you want. And again, we're doing the same thing. We're preparing the mixture, getting the lumps out, sifting it through our fingers, and then we're going to turn this into a dough and we're going to roll out one big sheet, and then we can proceed with putting our filling in to make this pizza. Once again, we're doing the same thing. We are going to knead this or kind of play with it until it sticks together. I'm adding a bit of water here. The oil does help to avoid adding too much water. Water does dry pastry out. So if you want to use oil for that reason, go ahead and do that, even for the patties, not just the pizza. But for the pizza, I would like to have a more of a smooth, soft, bendy type of consistency, especially for the sides. You'll see what I mean when I start forming it. So we just need like a long, thin shape, a little bit like an oval or an oblong. It doesn't have to be neat at all, as long as it's not too thick, but a little bit thicker than the patties were. So we're going for about 3 mil with this one. So I'm going to use some of my leftover filling here just to put in the middle. Whatever's left here, it's all going in. I'm grating some cheddar cheese over the top of this. This tastes awesome with cheese on it. Now it's time to start forming the pizza. We're just getting the two sides and kind of folding them upwards to put the filling in the place we want. We're going to put some water around just the top and the bottom edge because they're the bits we're going to seal. The rest of it's kind of just going to sit on top of the filling so that none of this filling spills out. And we're doing the same with the bottom end. And then we're just going to fold it over like a little envelope. And again, using some water to stick it so it stays put. We're going to do the same thing with the top end. And we're just going to neaten the sides in a sec. I'll show you how again. No effort needed for this whatsoever. It's so easy. Don't put too much water, otherwise your pastry or your dough will get soggy. And then we're just kind of folding the middles in with little pleats, gatherings, just a little bit on the side so that we keep all the contents in. And there it is, a nice little parcel. We're going to put this in the oven as well. We need some baking, we need a baking sheet first. Baking paper rather. We're just going to cut some of that off and just put it in an oven tray and bung that in for about 10 minutes as well. Beautiful, look at this. I love this food. As I said, portable food, guys. The best you can do. Nice and soft. Even the sides where we've folded it over are soft too. The patties are a little bit harder because we didn't use oil in the pastry. So if you want your patties to be a bit softer, definitely put the oil in. Just going to cut into everything now so you can see what it looks like on the inside and give you an idea of the consistency as I'm cutting it. You can see there's a bit of wobble, so it's not too hard. We're going to give it a squeeze and a test in a minute when we taste it. Nice and hot. You can eat these cold as well. You can eat these the next day if you put them in the fridge. Let's cut the pizza. A lot softer. Beautiful. Just going to show you the inside. You can see the consistency is very soft. Nice and bouncy. This is exactly how it should be. It could have been a bit browner. You can turn the oven up a little bit more if you want them a little browner. Beautiful. Or leave them in a bit longer.
I love it. Oh. Oh God. Getting all over my hair.
Look at this. You can put the tomatoes on cold if you want after.
Gorgeous. You can make these with chicken breast. You can put mushrooms in it. Put a cream sauce on the top. Turkish sausage called pastry. Beautiful with that, with some eggs on top. So how I've put the tomatoes on, you can just put 3 little eggs on the top. Don't beat them or anything, just put the eggs on whole. You can do that with spinach. Nice and easy. Quick in the oven again, 10 minutes. I've sprinkled mint on top of mine because I love mint and tomatoes. Nice cup of tea with it. Can of Coke. Orange juice.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing to this channel. Upcoming videos, I've got a hair video coming up. I've got a product in my hair at the moment which I feel is helping me immensely. So if you've got difficult hair, frizzy hair, you want longer, softer, silkier hair, subscribe now because I'll be putting a video up in the next few days. Just reviewing some products that I've found and I actually feel like I'm going to keep using because it is helping me. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.